The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a domain controller, a Windows domain controller, that I'm going to be using throughout this particular training. I know, maybe some of you know how to create a domain controller, but I want to show you how I construct the entire lab. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a domain controller. I've got this machine called DC main that is a Windows Server 2008 R2 machine. And here, I'm just going to, as you can see right here, I've got a DHCP address assigned. See it? Assigned by DHCP, which I don't really want. I'm going to be assigning a static IP address to this particular box. I'm going to Properties. I'm going to undo IPv6 because I don't need that. I'm going to go to Properties, go to the IP address, and specify an IP address, and make this its own gateway. Click OK, click Close. Give this an IP address of its own. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Roles right here. And I'm going to add the Directory Services role to this. I'm going to click Next, and Active Directory Domain Services right there. It's going to be pretty easy. Next, Next, and Install. And it's going to add Active Directory Domain Services role to this box. And after the role is installed, I'm going to actually install a domain. I'm going to make this a domain controller. The reason I'm making this a domain controller is because I'm going to be connecting my xenserver to this domain. It's going to benefit me in many ways as far as security and permissions and such go. I'm going to close out of this at this point. I'm going to click on the Start menu, and I'm going to run DC promo. And the reason I'm going through this rather fast is because I'm really not here to teach you Windows. I'm going to be focused on, of course, delivering Xen training or Citrix xenserver training to you. So that's why I'm going about this particular part of the lab setup a little bit faster and not going through explaining every little detail to you. Right now, I'm creating a domain controller. That's going to be a Server 2008 R2 domain. And click Next, and I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to click Next, and I'm going to specify a password. Click Next, and click Next, and I'm going to say Reboot on completion. This is going to install the Active Directory domain on this particular box. And as soon as it's done, I'm going to move on to the installation of Citrix xenserver so you can see what that's like. So here I am on the domain controller. I'm going to log in just after it rebooted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an organization unit inside of my Active Directory domain, and I'm going to add a couple of users. If I click on the Start menu, click on All Programs, click on Administrative Tools, and select Active Directory Users and Computers, up comes AD Users and Computers. Here is my domain. And I do everything on the command line since I just happen to like it that way. And in the meantime, while I do things at the command line, hopefully you will learn a few things that perhaps you haven't done at the command line, and you're going to want to start doing things that way. I always do things at the command line. Just happen to like it that way. So I'm going to add an organization unit, and I'm going to call the organization unit Citrix at my class domain, and I'm going to create a user inside of my Citrix domain. I'm going to call the user xenserver admin dc edu, put in my password, say that it won't be disabled, and I'm going to put another user in there. Just going to put in user 1 like that, and I'm going to make it user 2, and And this is going to be xenserver group, like so. Go here, refresh this, and of course, it would help if I put this in the right domain, wouldn't it? There we go. So yes, here's my OU, and I'm going to say that in this Zen group, I'm going to add these to group, like so. Done. And now I have these users in this group. Awesome. Okay, so this is all done. So I've got myself a domain, I've got myself a Citrix OU, and I've got a couple of users in here as well. One more thing I want to do, maybe I'm just going to put in another user, just so that it stands by itself. 4. And do a refresh, and there's 3 and 4. Good. So I've got my domain, I've got my users, this is all good. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to begin the installation of my box. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gain access to what's called the DRAC, if you will. And this is the wrong machine to get a hold of it from. I'm going to go to the machine where I will be able to gain access to the DRAC. The DRAC is really the Dell remote access controller that will allow me to see a video feed while the machine is powered off and as it's being powered on. And all the configuration that I do to it, I'll be able to view it.